Today I'm going to be tearing out this old outdated head unit from my 2019 5th Gen 4Runner and replacing it with this beautifully upgraded Android and wireless Apple CarPlay friendly head unit from Dasaita. Wait till you see what a difference this thing makes. So the main reason I'm upgrading my stock head unit on my 5th Gen 4Runner is any model year under 2020 does not come equipped with Apple CarPlay. You get this old outdated head unit. It still has a CD player, which I don't know, it's been a decade or so since I've even used one of those. Small little screen. The new screen is going to go edge to edge. That's going to be great for offline maps that I can now integrate using Apple CarPlay with things like Gaia or Onyx Off-Road. Also, through Apple CarPlay, I can actually take advantage of the Garmin power switch I have installed under my hood. So I can control all my lights and my refrigerator, any external power that I have hooked into that Garmin power switch right from my dash. I don't have to install any secondary switch panel or anything like that. So this is going to be a really nice upgrade. It's going to be a nice creature comfort that's going to be useful not only for daily driving, but also for overlanding. So with that, it's time to remove this head unit and get started on the install. All right, before we get started inside the vehicle removing the old head unit, the first thing we're going to want to do is disconnect the negative from the car battery. This is going to ensure that we don't have any electrical surges or shorts happening when we're removing the head unit or putting in the new head unit. So let's get started. All right, we're ready to go. All right, the only tool that you're going to need to take this head unit out is a 10mm socket. Everything else you can do with your hands. So we're going to start by removing these trim pieces on the left and right side that are attached to the climate control. And basically, if you just grab onto them, they have clips in there that will release. Just give them a little bit of a rock. And you can see the different clips that are in there and how that works. So you just do that on both sides. Next thing we're going to do is remove the climate control knobs. And basically all you do is grab onto them, wiggle a little, and pull. And then behind here, you can just undo the wiring, and that piece you can set aside. Now what that does is it exposes the bolts that you need to remove. So there's 4 bolts underneath the head unit. And basically this is where your 10mm socket comes into play. And just loosen those up. And just remove those bolts. Make sure not to lose these bolts. You will need to reuse them. All right, so that's it. The head unit is now loose. So you can just kind of grab onto it, give it a little bit of a shake, and the whole thing will pull out. Now you want to be careful with your shifter that you don't drop the screen on here in case you ever want to reuse this for any reason. But otherwise, you can see from the inside, it's just removing a bunch of clips from these wire harnesses. So that's pretty much it. That's really easy to get out of the 4Runner. Now what we're going to do, that we have everything disconnected, is take this thing inside, and we have parts on this old head unit that need to be transferred over to the new head unit. Before we tear apart the old one, I thought this would be a great time to pause and do a quick unboxing of this new one. All right, let's dig into this thing and see what we got. So just opening up the box, you got your user manual, warranty card, step-by-step installation guide. So that's gonna be helpful. You have accessory cable kit. So there's 3 or 4 different harnesses in here. We only need one of them. So we'll dig through there and find the one we need. I also have another accessory cable kit. I believe this has like your radio antenna, GPS in here, microphone, some other cables, so hang on to that. Trim tools in case you need those, which we do not. And then we have the head unit, so let's go ahead and pull that out. So it's very well packaged, nice thick foam. And look at the size of that screen. That's going to be a major improvement from where we are today. So that thing goes almost the whole distance across. Wonderful. Well, now that we have this thing unboxed, we're going to go pull off the parts and pieces from the other head unit and get those installed on here. All right, now that we have this head unit removed from the 4Runner, the first thing we're going to start with is removing these clips. And basically how we do that, you know, you just kind of got to be careful with these. You don't want to break them. My fingers are too big to get in there, so I'm just going to use a flathead screwdriver to pry lightly up on one end, and then they just come right off like that. Just set those aside. I think it's a good idea to have some trays available just to throw in your loose parts. And we're just going to work our way around and remove all 4 of these yellow clips. All right, now that we have those clips removed, the next thing we're going to move is just kind of this top panel right here. That'll allow us to get in there to remove the vents, the hazard lights, and that's where you need this mini screwdriver. There's just 2 screws up on top. Take each one of those out. And this should just slide right out. Just like that. Set that aside. We're going to need that for the other head unit. Now we can go ahead and remove the hazard switch. So there's a clip here, we just remove the wire. And then this top clip here, you just push with the screwdriver. And this tab will release the hazard switch through the front. All right, so now we're going to move on to removing these air vents. And what I'd like to do is start from the inside. On each corner there's a tab, there's one across the top, and there's 2 back here. If you loosen up these 2 first, and then this one, then you should just be able to pry it out. Be very careful again, you do not want to break this, so I'm going to start with this top one here. Just pry that one loose, and then work my way inside here. Push that tab away from me. That released it pretty good, and then this top one I just want to make sure is released, yep. And then underneath here, there's 2 more tabs, and that's it. They pop right off. So just be very careful with these, you do not want to break them. And that actually makes it easier to remove the second one. So, just like that. And then you want to remove these covers for the actual dials on the air vents. And again, you're going to need that mini screwdriver. And there's just 2 screws for each of these. Just make sure to set those aside. Having a magnetic tip on your screwdriver helps as well. You can just lift those screws right up. And I believe all that we have left that we need to salvage from this old head unit is these brackets on the left and right side. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. This requires a Phillips screwdriver. And we can start with this bottom unit, removing that. And then you can start with the top unit. That's one bracket. And then take this piece off. Won't need that anymore. And then you have this side left. You're going to want to maintain this wire on here that goes to your 4-way. That's it. We have removed everything we need to from this head unit. Now we're going to go ahead and grab the new one, and we're going to reinstall all of this on the new head unit. All right, so I have the new head unit here. A little advice, put something soft down. You don't want to scratch this at all, so I just laid a nice towel down here to keep the screen nice and protected. But basically what we're going to do is just kind of work in reverse. Everything that we just took off, we're going to put back on. It's pretty standard, pretty self-explanatory. So starting with the brackets, they should line up perfectly. And you kind of Once you rotate it, you'll figure out which end needs to be where, and then just basically line it up to the screw holes and attach the screws. Alright, we're just going to quickly go ahead, pop in the hazard. Plug that in. We're going to start with these dials. These vents should just snap right back into place, just line them up with the clips. Put on this top tray. And then finally just reapply these 4 clips. That's it. This thing is fully assembled. We are ready for our wiring harnesses. So as you're getting ready to install the harnesses to the back of this head unit, this is the part of the installation process that can get quite confusing. The directions are pretty vague. They give you these 2 packages that are just packed full of different harnesses, different wires, different accessory plugins, accessories. You know, and if you're doing a basic installation like I am, where I'm just looking for Apple CarPlay, or for some of you Android, and a lot of that stuff is really not necessary. I don't need a GPS unit. I'll be using my phone for that. I don't need the external microphone. I don't have a front-facing camera or a subwoofer. So there's just a lot of things that I don't need this head unit to do. So I went ahead and pulled out the harnesses that you're going to need for this basic installation like the one that I'm doing. If you go into your instruction guide, there is a few different applications depending on the year of your 4Runner. I have the 2019, so they have a different harness for a 2014 to 2019, and that is the CB004X harness. This is what that looks like. This is your primary harness. This is the one that's really going to plug into all of your factory wires. And it has your CAN bus on it. And there's also your antenna wire and your ground. From here, there's a few other things that you're going to need for basic installation. The Wi-Fi antenna is a good thing to install. For that USB aux port that's on the front of your 4Runner dash, you can connect that right to this unit. So you're going to need 2 cables to do that. You're going to need this primary cable that has this purple fitting on it, and that plugs into a USB on this other cable. And then that has the connection that hooks into your car. So you're going to want that as well. And then for your rear-facing camera, you're going to want this set of AV connectors. And I'll show you which one of these that we're going to be utilizing for this application. So with that, now that you know what basic harnesses and cables you need, the rest of it's pretty simple. So we're going to start off by connecting the main harness, and really there's only one connector that connects to the back here. That's this black connector, and that just goes right into the right side here, like so. All right, now we're just going to connect this ground wire to one of those bolts that we use to attach our bracket to this head unit. So that's pretty simple. Just unscrew one of these bolts. And then from there we have our antenna wire. So we'll just go ahead and route that through. And that plugs in all the way on the opposite side of the head unit. Now we're going to go ahead and connect these AV connectors. And that goes to the top left. And then out of there, you're going to take the one that says camera in and remove the white cover. And then we're going to find the 2 yellow video cables here. And the one that you're going to want to use is the one that is coming out of the harness that has all the blue, gray, white, and yellow wires. So ignore the other one. You don't need it. And then that should be all you need to connect your rear camera. And then we're just going to go ahead and attach the Wi-Fi antenna. And then lastly, we're going to go ahead connect this USB aux cable. And that connects right next to that AV harness that we just installed. And then you're going to want to go ahead and connect this adapter to that as well. All right. So that is it. We are ready to take this outside and install it in the 4Runner. All right, let's get this thing installed. So, word of advice here, we have the shifter knobs down below here. Let's go ahead and cover those up with one of the pieces of foam that came with the head unit. Then we just have a nice place that we can just set this while we're connecting all the wires in the back. And that's basically all we have to do. We just kind of go through each wire, connects to a plug. There's only one plug that matches each, so just find the right one and start plugging away. All right, we have all the wires connected that need to be connected. So now we're just going to go ahead and tuck everything back in to the dash. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just plug this back in real quick. Reconnect the battery and just do a quick test to see if this works before we go ahead and tighten up all the bolts. All right, here it is. It's a little cold out today. Looks like everything's starting up. Just give this a minute. All right, everything looks like it's working. All right, well, everything seems to be working great. So we're gonna go ahead and bolt this thing back in and then get the climate control back in, the trim pieces on, and then we'll walk through some of the settings with this new head unit. All right, so let's just kind of do a quick run through of this head unit. So when this thing fires up for the first time, this is the screen that it's going to land on. This has nav, music, radio settings, amplifier, video, and Bluetooth right here on the main screen. And then if you swipe to the right, you can see this has a lot of different apps that you can kind of customize for whatever need you may have. On the left hand side here you have your settings button, Apple CarPlay button, Android, and then this kind of gyroscope button that you can utilize too if you're going to go off-roading. I'd like to see how well that thing actually works out in the field, so that's kind of a fun feature of this. But what I'm going to start with right away is getting into pairing this with my Apple phone, so getting into Apple CarPlay. So just go ahead, press the Apple CarPlay button. This is going to take you to the Z-Link page, and then from here, go to your phone, and you're going to see in your Bluetooth settings Car Kit down at the bottom. So you want to click on that, and up here on your screen it says pin code 0000. So you're going to go ahead, enter that on your phone, and then hit pair. And then just hit connect. And there you go. So now that was very simple. I've seen other head units that are a lot more complicated to get the Apple CarPlay working. So this is great. So now I have access to all my Apple CarPlay friendly apps like Gaia, GPS, iTunes. The one that I'm really excited about, I have a Garmin power switch under the hood that I control my lights with, power for the rear of my vehicle and my refrigerator. So now I can actually go into here and I have that all set up on my phone. And now I can access the different switches that I have set up and turn on all my different lights, my fridge or my 12 volt in the back, rock lights. So that is a nice feature of this head unit. I don't have to install any other external switch panels. Keeps the interior of my dash nice and clean. This is great for when I'm off-roading. I have access to my offline maps if I need them. Apple Music, all the other Apple CarPlay friendly apps. I believe also I have Onyx Off-Road if I'm going to ever use that. Google Maps is on here. So that's just a really nice added feature that I have been wanting on this 4Runner for a long time. All right, well, that wraps up the install of this new Dasaita head unit. You guys saw how easy it was to pull out the old factory one and drop this thing in. What I love about it, they did a great job of making it look factory. So this looks like it belongs in the 4Runner, but this old, outdated technology has now been updated in the 21st century. Now, I did a pretty basic install of this. My main goal was to get Apple CarPlay, but, this thing is capable of so much more. If you have a more complicated and sophisticated stereo system, this thing is going to be great for you. Dasaita has a great customer service team. If you have any questions on, what cables or wires you need for this thing, where to plug things in, just reach out to them and they will be glad to help you. I want to say thank you to Dasaita for sending me this to do this install video for you. If you want to pick one of these up for yourself, I'm going to put a link and a discount code for you in the description below. If you find this content useful, go ahead and ring that bell. That'll notify you when I post new content. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.